Good day to everyone. We are in another Leader's Edge, Season 6, Episode 9. I am Sassy Casas, your host for today. Today, we will talk about leading in pandemic times, from resilience to results. Our distinguished guests will share with us refreshing insights of how leaders should think, feel, and act differently in energizing and engaging their teams towards excellence. His thoughts will invite you to reflect the way you design and deliver value in becoming creative with novel initiatives. It will show you the way to strengthen your emotional intelligence with special emphasis of empathy in balancing results and relationships. Our guest for today has a rare combination of being a chartered manager, chartered HR personnel, and a chartered electrical engineer. He is he is acclaimed as a conference speaker, corporate trainer, strategy consultant, author, and an academic. He was the director and chairman of the board of management of Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Sri Jayewardenepura, Sri Lanka. He is an adjunct professor at Price College of Business University of Oklahoma. He was the editor of the pioneering Sri Lankan Journal of Management, being Commonwealth AMDISA Doctoral Fellow, Fulbright Postdoctoral Fellow, and a Commonwealth Postdoctoral Fellow. He is also an independent director of several boards. He is past president of Chartered Institute of Personal Management in Sri Lanka as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you with pride and honor our guest for today, Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri. Professor, good day to you.
Thank you. A good day to you.
I am really excited about this talk.
Are you Lanka? That means may you have long life. I think that greeting has very much relevance to the period that we are passing through with a planetary pandemic, because the employee well-being has come to the forefront as never before. On one side, people are battling for their lives. On the other side, people are battling for the livelihoods, the economic calamities associated with the pandemic. So it's a subtle balance you need to maintain, ensure that people well-being, at the same time, economic well-being. So it's a real challenging time for country leaders, corporate leaders alike. So this pandemic, like the flu that we had, the viral flu long time ago, it might linger long. We have already witnessed almost 2 years. Like the Spanish flu lasted 3 years. It might stay with us for some longer time, despite the vaccination drives, despite the attempts to have better health care, despite the proactive measures to prevent it getting spreaded. Still, the human behavior is always complex and chaotic. So we might have to stay with the pandemic for some time. So as Sasi very correctly mentioned at the very beginning, how do we respond in having the required response to have the revival through the right resilience? That could be the topic for the day, where the leadership comes into the scene, leading in pandemic time, from resilience to revival. So some thoughts I would like to share. In beginning, I would say, Sasi, it's a case of responding to the reality.
Okay.
So the reality that we see around the globe, I would call it VUCA 1.0. So we have the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That is the VUCA 1.0. I actually read it in many management journals, many management magazines, many management articles, but I did not realize that it will come to our doorstep so soon. It will become a daily aspect so soon. So that is the reality. VUCA 1.0. I would argue the response that we need to have is VUCA 2.0. So what is VUCA 2.0? That is vision, understanding, agility, vision, understanding, confidence, and agility. The right vision for the future, the right understanding of what's happening around you, and right confidence, having the high degree of efficacy within you, your belief about your ability, and being agile, being dynamic. So VUCA 1.0 reality should be faced with the required response of VUCA 2.0. So we need to have that mindset. Embracing that mindset is the key. It is relevant globally and locally alike. I'm sure I'm connected with people around the globe. So as a global citizen, so we need to have that response, vision, understanding, confidence, and agility. That's my starting way of describing the whole thing. Over to you, Sasi.
Yes. Professor, what do you think are the challenges that the leaders are facing right now? The things that COVID or the pandemic has changed, in your view?
Yes, thank you, Sasi. I think that's a great question. It has opened a new whole set of possibilities. We talk about the new normal. The old normal luxuries are not there anymore. But the new normal itself brings a lot of opportunities. I was observing when the Unilever global head was saying, it is no more 5 days a week. It will be 3 into 2 into 2. 3 days of working from home, 3 days of coming to office, and 3 days of working from home, 2 days of coming to office, and 2 days of weekend. So it is a new way of working. So the virtual working, telecommuting, working from home, technology-based connection, they have become part and parcel of the new normal. So on one side, we see the grim reality of social distancing, physical distancing, where we are even encouraged to maintain physical distancing. But on the other hand, technology has become a key connector. Technology has become a key enabler. Technology has become a key driver in ensuring that we have high tech and high touch harmony. So I think leaders have to appreciate the new reality. Leaders have to have that proper understanding to face the new reality and exploiting the new opportunities. For example, earlier we said telecommuting is only for selected category of people, where, say, for example, the mothers with the newborn babies, where they are far more flexible in working from home. Certain people have traveling challenges. But now it has become a very much essential feature of the new equation, working from home, plus working virtually, plus connecting globally through a virtual platform. So we need to appreciate this. We need to look at the new reality. So again, Sasi, if I talk about fundamentals of leadership, leadership is all about having a dream and pursuing that dream, developing a dream team, so that together with the leader, the team pursues the dream to making the dream a reality. So in the challenging time, you need to dream differently. You need to dream in a different way, and then pursue that dream with passion and action.
Okay. Oh, another question that I'd like to throw at you. I just like to ask, where is the world needs to be in terms of being agile and resilient?
I would say the dynamism you need to have, because you can't go with the rigid digit approach. You can't go with a fixed formula all the time. In the strategy field, we talk about the formulated strategies and emergent strategies. Sometimes you have a strategic plan and you pursue that strategic plan, you execute things according to a plan. But now what happened, there are a lot of things emerging. There are emergent opportunities. I'll give you an example from Sri Lanka. We had an apparel industry thriving, which was catering for the global market, apparels. But when the COVID struck, they changed their game plan. They started making personal protective equipment. They started stitching face masks. So now they do more face masks than the other apparels in some plants. So there's an opportunity. So take pharmaceutical industry. They have huge opportunity to come with more and more innovative vaccines, more and more innovative products to curb the pandemic. So it has given a new oxygen for the innovators to come up with new equipment, to come up with new medical supplies. And the supply chain, the global supply chain has seen its limitations. So the need to have more regional supply chains, to have more than one supplier, to have better reliance, to have better reliability, to have better reinforcement. These things have come to the scene in a big way. So the simple fact, Sasi, that it's a new ball game, new opportunities. So the key requirement is to change for better, rather than clinging on to the conservative, conventional way of doing things. You need to open up in adapting yourself, in showing your dynamism, your liveliness in being agile, not to have a fixed way of doing things, but to be ready to change, to open for new possibilities, new opportunities. That's how I would look at it.
So another question that I'd like to make clear. Now, how does the WFH impacted the emotional resiliency of the world's workforce? How can it learn to adapt emotionally?
Okay, I would say that emotions are a vital factor of human behavior. It's about enabling emotion. You need to look at emotions. You need to respect emotions. You should not underestimate emotions. So emotional resilience comes fundamentally from emotional intelligence. Traditionally, we were highlighting more the mathematical, logical, rational intelligence. That era is gone. And now we see people who have successfully passed the examinations, but they miserably fail in life. So we need something beyond. That is where the emotional intelligence becomes handy. And that's Daniel Goleman, who was pioneering in promoting this concept, says leaders have to be 70% more emotionally intelligent than others. So emotional intelligence is something you need to have in recognizing others, particularly in this current pandemic, Sasi. You need to be empathetic. Empathy comes from emotional intelligence. One fundamental aspect of emotional intelligence is empathy. How you understand someone else's emotional state of affairs. Without that understanding, you can't foster emotional resilience. So empathy is something very key. Looking from another's point of view, respecting another's point of view, getting into another's shoes and walking like another person. And then understanding from a different perspective. Rather than saying my way is highway, you need to go beyond. You need to have that broad maturity. So I think what you are touching is something very, very fundamentally needed by leaders worldwide, having better empathy.
Yes.
And I always advocate, before having customer care, you need to have employee care. Customer care through employee care. If you don't take care of your people, they will not in turn take care of your customers. So emotional resilience comes from employee care, treating your people, treating them with dignity, ensuring that you empathize with them, you work with them, you guide them, you coach them, you develop them, and you are with them collectively to achieve results.
Professor, I have read an article. This happened in the West, the US. And it seems that there are employees who are, they call it ghosting. I don't know if you have read about it or have heard of it. It means when an employee is ghosting, that employee will take the job, but after several days that he feels that he doesn't like the job, or the job is too much for him, or he doesn't like the environment, that employee will just disappear. And this has been something that is becoming a problem in the United States. I don't know if it's coming here in Asia, but what do you think can be done so that ghosting will not happen?
I think that's a great question, Sashi. I wrote an article called Realistic Job Previews, which won the Emerald Best Paper Award in 2014, together with my US colleagues in Price College. So in realistic job previews, before someone undertakes a job, before someone is assigned a job, they should be given a clear picture. Sometimes if you give a overly flowery picture about a job, but when the person embarks on the job, realize that rosiness is no more. It is a very harsh situ, and then it is not what I was promised. So the promises versus the reality. If there's a big mismatch, people might get frustrated. People might get, I would say, disheartened. And particularly, Sashi, it is very relevant to the new generation, particularly with Generation Z. If you look at the multiple generations, if you look at the baby boomers who were starving for a job, for them job security was something of utmost importance. So they were thinking more than twice before leaving a job. For them, having a job, like a lifelong job, was very important. Of course, Gen X slightly changed it. In the Generation X, they were more looking at achievements, achievement orientation. And of course, the millennials wholly changed the ball game. They want to have enjoyment, to have fun. If they enjoy what they do, irrespective of what amount they get, they continue to do the job, because for them, job is one way of enjoying, one way of having fun, one way of living meaningfully. So this is the crux of the matter, Sanjay. So why someone get disheartened, why the job ghosting happens, what happens is they get disillusioned, they get disconnected, and they are disheartened. They don't like the job, they don't enjoy, because what was promised at the beginning is not there. So basically there's a mismatch of expectations of the employee and the employers, what the employer would provide. So this gap can be very, very damaging, very dangerous, and very destructive. And it can lead to a lot of counterproductive behavior from the side of the employees. So that article, I think, highlighted that it is not only relevant to US, Sashi, it can happen in anywhere in the world, particularly with the new generation. The centennials, more than the millennials, it can very much possible with centennials, the Gen Z coming into the scene.
Okay. So to follow up this question, what do you think is the phenomena behind for this type of action from the employees? Because in our time, usually we don't want to lose our jobs. As much as possible, we will try to endure all the things that the company is giving us. Even though we don't like it, we just keep our jobs because we want security. But right now, is it because of the millennials' different point of view against the old generations that they're not as afraid of losing their jobs and they know they can get better ones?
I would say it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed scenario. But I would go with the old adage. They say, do the job that you love to do. Do the job that you love to do. But if you don't have that luxury, love the job that you have to do. Love the job that you have to do. The problem with the new generation, they don't follow the second adage. They might follow the first one, but they don't follow the second one. So they have no hesitation of leaving, because their loyalty is not to a particular employer. Their loyalty is not to a particular job. So gone are the days where you have lifelong employment. Gone are the days that you are having that allegiance to a particular employer, that loyalty to a particular employer, to that reverence to that particular employer. No, they want to enjoy life. They want to find meaning. They want to find sense of purpose, which is the nature of the new generation. But one positive thing, they will add value in whatever they do. They will be real value creators. They will be real innovators. They will be real solid contributors. But for how long? That's the question mark. How long is the question mark?
Okay, thank you. Let me give you another question. This one is different, but it's also it has to do with employees as well. And will artificial intelligence, which is, we all see them right now, We all feel them right now. Will artificial intelligence be a threat or a friend to mankind, particularly in how it might render many jobs obsolete? Now, is there a need to do a massive retool, or will AI adapt to us?
I think that's a very timely question, Sasi. I would say AI is still evolving. AI
Hmm.
has its own strengths and its own limitations, strengths and shortcomings as well. I'll give a real example. In my neighboring country, India, they have this leading airline. I don't want to mention the name. They have AI embedded customer care service. And a passenger who flew from New Delhi to Hyderabad found surprisingly his bag was missing. His baggage has gone to Ahmedabad instead of Hyderabad. So he logged into the customer care system and makes a complaint. I flew from New Delhi to Hyderabad, but my bag went to Ahmedabad. Excellent customer care. So the AI picked the term excellent customer care and responded saying, thank you for appreciating our customer care and we are very happy to have served you. So
Nice. Yeah.
the context is missing. The contextual factor is missing. It's still evolving. So some of the subtleness, some of the humor, some of the sarcasm, they are very difficult to capture by AI. So it's a long journey. But having said that, AI has huge potential. But I would argue, Sashi, my proposition is there has to be AI, EI harmony. AI without EI, there is artificial intelligence without emotional intelligence is crippled. Emotional intelligence without artificial intelligence, again crippled. You need to have a good blend of AI, EI. That's where high tech and high touch harmony is required. High tech and high touch. If you remember the beautiful movie by Steven Spielberg called Artificial Intelligence,
Yes.
I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. There's David, a child robot, having emotions. So a childless couple purchased that child robot and having an enjoyable time with the David child robot. And they realize they need another child. They approach the same robotic organization and gets a replica of David. So the replica comes home. And now David is having a fight with the replica. I don't want to share my mother's love with you. So a robot's having emotions. That's future. That's future. We have not gone into that level. But that is the way forward. AI, EI, harmony will do a lot of benefits to the humankind. And the second part of your question, Sashi, will that lead to massive job losses? I would argue no. It's a reshaping, reforming, and it's a revival of the nature of the jobs. The jobs which were more labor intensive would be replaced by automation, and jobs that will be more intellectual stimulation will be in high demand. Obviously, robots are created by humans. AI is designed by humans. So human spirit will never lose its validity, its currency, its requirement. So human spirit always remains as a vibrant factor for the job creation. But as you rightly said, retooling is required, upskilling is required, reskilling is required. Sometimes certain people might find it difficult due to their conceptual limitations. Someone who is very, very comfortable with a manual job might not be equally comfortable with more intellectual job. So these are challenges. Again, the harsh reality is that it boils down to survival of the fittest. It's not the most intelligent that would survive, but who can adapt to change better, like what Darwin said.
Yes. And I think even though, let's say, there are some people who will really lose jobs, there are new jobs forming this era. Like there are people who are earning from YouTube, TikTok, and other formats. And I don't know if this will also be a problem for companies who are looking for people that would help them in their companies when these people are earning so much in another platform. What do you think about this type of new money earning platforms?
Yes, I think that is the basis of the gig economy where you don't have permanent workers assigned with a fixed contract, and there'll be vibrancy with regard to contingent workers where people engage in assignments. And I think one important factor, Sasi, here is we need to look at the future competencies. We need to be future proof with regard to competence. That's where the managers, administrators, leaders alike have to attune themselves. So I would call them A, B, C, D, E, future competencies. A stands for analytical skills. You need to be sharp in your analysis with more business analytics coming into the scene. With the big data, you need to have strong analytical skills. And B stands for business acumen. You should know your business. You can't just hide in a functional specialty, particularly in HR and so on, where you can't just say I'm an HR professional. I should be broadened to make it more business acumen. I should know the business. I should understand my business challenges. So B for business acumen. C for creativity. It is not just conventional way of doing things, creative. You got to be creative. Wear your creative hat and start thinking about possibilities, options, being innovative, imaginative. And D is for digital diligence. We can learn, I would say, at word, anytime, anywhere, any device. Anytime, anywhere, any device. That's the digital diligence. You need to be digitally savvy. The world has always been divided into two parts, Sachi. We say before Christ, after Christ. And now it's a digital division, BG and AG. Before Google, after Google. Why fear when Google is there? So in other words, it's a digitally savvy world. If you don't have digital savviness, something is missing. Something is missing. So, and E is what we were talking about, emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence. You got to be emotionally intelligent. And you got to empathize with what's going around. And that involves the triple bottom line concept. Not only just profit, but people and planet. Taking care of people, taking care of planet, triple bottom line in action. So analytical skills, business acumen, creativity, digital diligence, and emotional intelligence. Those are the future-proof competencies that employers would anticipate to have. Employers should look forward to seeing the prospective candidates, and the learning institutions should embrace in providing the learning opportunities for future-proof people to equip themselves with those 5 competencies.
Oh, wow. Now, I really love talking about technology, science, and I am really learning more about what you're sharing. Now, I'd like to go back to the AI thing. We're about to have driverless cars. Uber and Grab drivers might lose work. Also, drones are being used for delivery, and even for ambulance. They are planning to do this in the future. Should there be some sort of regulatory body to keep AI benevolent rather than the next step in evolution?
Yes, I think so. I think so, because it's a case of having right checks and balances. I saw where a self-driven truck in US met with a fatal accident where there were significant injuries. So like that, technology can go wrong, even if you foolproof it. There is always a tendency of it might go wrong. So you need to have right checks and balances. So the regulatory framework is essential, and also the reliability of the technology. Sometimes, for example, how much mastered we are. Take an example from aviation as a parallel. However much we have mastered the aviation technology, still the lightning and the thunder strikes can happen, hampering an aircraft moving. Similarly, there can be still possible bird attacks. We saw in the Hudson River incident. However much the advanced technologies are. So you can't overly rely on technology per se. I am a proponent for technological advancement. I'm a user of advanced technology, but I am not saying technology is the God. Technology is not be all and end all. We need to have the right infrastructure in place, the regulatory mechanism, as you rightly said, the right legal setup. At the same time, the people who are losing jobs, they have to be challenged to do something different. Upskilling, reskilling, de-skilling. I think the future-proof competencies, they need to embrace willingly for their own survival. Of course, a crude example could be the mechanical typewriters. There were technicians, mechanics who survived on repairing mechanical typewriters. So they are obsolete. They're obsolete now. They don't have a job. Similarly, when driverless cars come, there'll be issues with taxi drivers, as you rightly said. So there can be many such employment categories that we need to carefully identify. And there has to be social welfare practices, because they can't change overnight from one discipline to a completely new discipline. It takes time. So the social infrastructure, legal setup, they all need to be holistically viewed. The problem I see, Sasi, sometimes we become narrowly, fragmentally doing things without having that holism in mind. So the Forbes magazine recently very correctly said, in the pandemic times, leaders have to have 3H, holistic, humane, and humble. They need to have the big picture, holistic, and they need to be humane, taking care of the most precious resource, and humble, down to earth. So that will give some emphasis, not just overly getting carried away with advances of technology, but having enough checks and balances. And remember, technology can be a great servant, but not necessarily a great master.
So, Professor, a while ago, you mentioned anytime, anywhere, and any device. How has your own practice as a professor been impacted by the new digital format? How do we manage engagement if we may not be in class with our learners at the same time? This is what's happening right now.
Yes, I think it's a very relevant and pertinent question, Sasi. I would say it's a mindset shift. More than the skill set and the tool set, you need to have the mindset shift. I myself found it very challenging personally, because we were thriving on the model of sage on the stage. Sage on the stage. You are in front of an audience and you go on with your verbal basically mastery, and you are the guru and others just listen to you. Sage on the stage. That luxury is not anymore. Instead, we have become guide on the side. We are in front of a computer screen. We see only a virtual audience in our virtual sessions, and moving from room to Zoom. Someone might say it is doom and gloom. I don't say so. Shifting from room to Zoom has its own strengths and shortcomings, own limitation. So it's a mindset change. Of course, I still love to have that wonderful physical connection with students, with my learning. So I use the term learning partners. We partner for learning together. So we all learn together. We learn from one another. So that physical interaction over a cup of tea, cup of coffee, having a good interactive break, that luxury is no more with online virtual sessions. We talk to a computer, and sometimes the people might get connected and then switching off the speaker and the camera, and they might do something totally different, and we don't know. So there's an engagement challenge, huge engagement challenge. How do we engage our learning partners? Still, for all, it is the new world order. It is the new normal. Whether however challenging it is, we need to adapt to the new reality. Adaptation is the key. Change for the better. So as an academic, I have started enjoying my Zoom sessions. I've started enjoying my Microsoft Teams sessions, despite the challenges associated, because it's survival of the fittest. I don't want to be a dinosaur lamenting the current, blaming the current, and looking at the glorious past. No, I have to be a dynamic dolphin, not a decaying dinosaur. So dinosaurs are not in the jungles, but they are still in the corporate world. That is the problem. They are still in the corporate world. That is the issue.
Yes, I think you're right, because before pre-pandemic era, the companies are not really open to what we call work from home. But during the pandemic, and they don't have any choice but to have their employees work from home. And right now, we're little by little going back to the office. I heard a lot of companies are adapting work from home and going to the office. And it seems that they have a different mindset about work from home right now. I think they have discovered, like for me, I am in sales, and usually I do my sales on Zoom. And for me, as a person who wants to do a person-to-person sales, because that where I can see how the client talks, how they move their eyes. It's all gone in Zoom unless I really look at and stare at the person. But somehow it became very comfortable for me because I don't need to go out. I don't need to go to a lot of traffic, and I can easily catch the potential client anywhere, especially in the comforts of their home. And we both feel safe with each other because we're far away, yet we still communicate as if we're in the same room. And I think, yes, it's more of the mindset that we really need to, we really need to focus on. And I really enjoyed talking about technology a while ago. And one last question about technology. Why do you think Elon Musk is so afraid of AI?
That's an interesting question. I think the whole issue is that you need to have the holistic approach. You can't have taking one in isolation. So if you take one in isolation, there's a great danger of missing the big picture, missing the broad canvas. So that is fun. So when you were talking about Sashi about the beauty of selling online, yes, it reminds me of what Sir Arthur C. Clarke, one of the veteran science fiction writers, who selected Sri Lanka as its second home. He said, in time to come, there will be an era where people will be more communicating than commuting. Communicating than commuting. So that has happened thanks to COVID in one way or the other. So the pandemic brought that wonderful opportunity. Rather than commuting, we communicate more. For example, in my institute, we started an online program, postgraduate program, opening for the whole world, so that anyone from anywhere in the world can join. Earlier, it was impossible because you need a visa to be taken, you need physical traveling, you need accommodation. But now in a virtual platform, the whole world is your marketplace. So that's a huge opportunity for selling, marketing, products, services. So there are plethora of opportunities with the pandemic. So I think we can look at very positively in those terms.
Okay. Professor, you are a great knowledge leader with much to share to the world. Now, have you had to also emotionally adjust from the psychological satisfaction from a live audience response? And facing a screen with nothing but names can be a bit discouraging, right? Now, your mindset is inspiring. I am getting a sense that you feel the message is everything and believing in its ability to touch lives. Would that be a fair as an assessment?
Well, Sashi, I would say it is a tough challenge. Tough challenge. Initially, I found it very, very challenging, as I already shared. But again, I had to adjust. There's no other choice. In the absence of an alternative, if that was the only choice given, you of course have to adjust yourself. Of course, now I am using certain options in Zoom, like breakout sessions, as a replacement of physical group discussions, and then poll option to do some surveys. And in fact, I even went to the extent of having a virtual debate, dividing the class into two and having a virtual debate, virtual role plays. So you have to be creative. Wear your creative hat and start enjoying, and then ensure that your people are engaged. But I must confess, Sachi, it needs additional energy. It needs additional energy exertion, but you feel happy that you are doing the right thing thanks to the technology availability. You are getting connected, and then due to the limitations, you have to put extra effort in doing something differently. But still, for all, on one side it is flexible, on the other side it has its inherent challenges. But it's how you maneuver through, how you get the best out of it. Again, boiling down to survival of the fittest.
Professor, this is a really wonderful exchange of thoughts, and I am really privileged, honestly, to connect with you today. Now, would you like to give your final thoughts and advice to our viewers?
I think the whole world tend to be negative in front of a pandemic. My suggestion is quest positive, of course, test negative for COVID. Quest positive. Quest positive. Go with a positive mindset, but don't test positive for COVID. Have that positive enthusiasm, and the world can be much better. Let's look at a better world for our future, and let's stay positive, be passionate in what you do, have a purpose, and of course, test negative for the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Professor Ajantha. And I would connect with you still. I'll add you on Facebook, so I will get more of your thoughts and ideas. Thank you very much for being our guest today. And folks at home, in episode 10, our topic is managing work-life balance during COVID-19 pandemic. And our guest will be Musharraf Hussain, to be interviewed by the dynamic Dinah Loomis. Now, thank you for being with us, and always click, look down, click subscribe, like, and share. And always remember, learning is a never-ending journey with limitless vistas. Good day.
Thank you. Take care.